All right, guys, I'm a little bit confused. My wallet's a little bit confused. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but I have a lot of books to get through. I have a huge book haul. So let's go ahead and do that. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Theo. I appreciate you hanging out while I show you guys all the books that I acquired over the last couple months. I have probably the biggest, if not the most fun book haul to share with you guys that I've done on this channel, so I can't wait to get into it. I'm going to go ahead and put some categories down below that you can skip to, maybe some genres or some other way categorizing them down below. So if you want to go ahead and skip to stuff that interests you, look down below and you can do that. All right, quick and easy. Let's start with the ebooks that I acquired because I got a few. The first one is an e-arc from the author Alexander Darwin for the combat codes. This one was originally self-published. It got picked up by Orbit, and the revised traditionally published version of this book comes out June 13th. I'm hoping to read it this month in April. If not, it'll be the first book I pick up in May in anticipation of hopefully interviewing Alex on the channel. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt. I do jiu-jitsu as well. This book sort of mixes fantasy and martial arts in a way that's kind of unique and I haven't really seen done before. The book basically takes place in a world where weapons of mass destruction have been banned and countries and factions basically settle disputes with designated like warriors or champions that do hand-to-hand combat. So in essence, MMA kind of replaces war, and that premise sounds really interesting to me. It fuses my passion for fantasy and books and stuff with martial arts. And I'm very excited to see where this goes. I appreciated Alex for the e-arc. Can't wait to read it and talk to you about it as soon as possible. All right, the next one is one that I've seen in bookstores every time I go in, and I just for some reason haven't bought it yet, but the cover looks amazing. I went ahead and just bought the ebook. This is The Children of Gods and Fighting Men by Shauna Lawless. This is the Gale Song series, #1. I think the second one comes out soon this year. Shauna has been in the social media, booktube, author, whatever communities that I'm part of. And she seems really cool. She's young. She's down to earth. I've seen her book talked about on other platforms and stuff. And it seems like this is a really cool story that I think might be right up my alley. This is, historical fantasy, Irish mythology, takes place like more than 1,000 years ago. There's Vikings and magic and stuff, tons to like. I'm hoping that I vibe with this one. I feel like as soon as I finish this one, I'm going to go out and buy the hard copy. I'm trying to get more selective with my shelves and my space and stuff. But this is one that if it hits the right notes for me, I'm going to go ahead and buy it and pick up the next one when it comes out. So I'm excited to try that one by Shauna Lawless. The last few ebooks I got as part of a set. There were 6 books plus like a short story collection. I got them all for pretty cheap. And the series is The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel by Michael Scott. I don't really know too much about this one. I do get some younger vibes from this one, maybe YA, middle grade, although it could be possibly darker than I anticipate, which would be kind of cool. I saw Mike over at Mike's Book Reviews talk about these ones. He just hauled these and they sounded pretty interesting. Now, it's not the same Nicholas Flamel from the Harry Potter books. Obviously, there's no connection, although they're both based on the same real life character from Paris in like 1300s. And the story has it that he discovered the elixir or secret to immortality or eternal life, and that's kind of the legend behind Nicholas Flamel. The story is about, I think, brother and sister basically getting wrapped up in this plot where the book that holds the secret to eternal life that Nicholas Flamel has or made gets stolen or is going to get stolen, and there's a prophecy and they're the only ones that can stop it. So they get wrapped up in this plot. And there's magic, it's fantasy, it's supposed to be a good time, so I went ahead and got those as well. Now let's go ahead and talk about some signed books. I don't have a whole lot, but I do have a few, and I've acquired some more that I want to show you guys now. So maybe at some point I'll do a shelf tour or a signed book special edition tour or whatever. But for now, let me just show you these. The first one I got, or the first few books, are from the same author, and it's part of the same series. It's called the Last War series, I'm pretty sure. The first book is We Are the Dead, and it's by Mike Shackle. Now, I got the first book gifted to me by a wonderful friend, patron, subscriber, Jane, and I've been wanting to read it for a long time. A lot of people have been reading these books lately and have been really enjoying them. They're grimdark. Apparently, they're super good, and I'm really excited to try it. Now, I found out that Mike Shackle actually lives like 30 minutes from me, so I was able to get a signed book for book 2, which I don't have. I just picked this up. Book 2, this is called A Fool's Hope, and this actually is a nice signed bookplate edition right here, which is kind of cool. But then also I was lucky enough to get book 3, which is Until the Last. And this one actually is really cool because not only is it signed by Mike Shackle and it has a nice, quote there and stuff, but it also has really cool artwork. He did this, character illustration by hand. I'm pretty sure this is a character named Tinstra, and it just looks super, super cool. I'm so lucky to have these. I really appreciate it. And he also included a really cool kind of comic. He basically did all the illustrations on this little comic, and this is the Until the Last sort of mini comic, and it has his signature obviously and some illustrations which are super, super cool. Everything is just awesome. The covers look sweet. I can't wait to try this. So I'm super thankful that I got to do that. And add a couple more signed books to the pile and, hopefully a series that I really enjoy. The next signed book I got is one that I bought purely because of the cover. The cover is one of the most beautiful covers I've ever seen. And that can be said about the first book that came out in this world, which is The Priory of the Orange Tree. I bought that one as well based on the cover. One of the most beautiful covers I've ever seen. And the two of these together look incredible on the shelf. I went out and I bought the second book, which is A Day of Fallen Night. These are by Samantha Shannon. And at my local bookshop, when I saw this one, I'm like, you know what? I should buy that, but I should really read The Priory of the Orange Tree first. But when I saw it was signed, I went ahead and just picked it up because why not? I don't really find a whole lot of signed books brand new at our bookshops. It's not something that's done very often around in my area. So when I saw that, I went ahead and picked it up. The Priory of the Orange Tree I haven't read yet. I really want to because it's, again, the cover looks incredible. It's supposed to be a really unique fantasy, strong female characters, queer representation. There's like dragons and stuff. Like, it sounds pretty sweet. The writing is supposed to be fantastic. So these are, I guess, standalones in the same world. And so I'm going to start with that one at some point. And if it really clicks, which I'm hoping it will, I'll get to this one at some point eventually too. I just wanted to show them off because the covers are super sweet. All right, now let's talk about some non-fantasy books. This one is Dolores Claiborne by Stephen King. This is a beautiful sort of hardcover first edition used copy that I found at a bookstore. And I've been really intrigued by this one. Some friends of mine have read it recently. They loved it. They said it's one of his better books. They really, really enjoyed it and recommended it to me. Apparently it's about an opinionated 65-year-old widow living in the tiny Maine community of Little Tall Island. She's suspected of murdering her wealthy elderly employer, Vera Donovan, and the novel is presented as a transcript of her statement told to the local constable and stenographer. So yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. All I can picture is Kathy Bates. I think she stars in the movie. I watched Misery not that long ago with my wife, and I have Gerald's Game, and I don't know if they're in some way connected. I don't actually know. If you know, maybe leave me a comment down below and let me know. But apparently as a standalone, as a really good short Stephen King book, this one nails it. So I'm excited to try this one. This is probably going to be the next Stephen King book that I read in the next month or two. This one is from an author that I've never read. I see his books all the time. This is Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson. I picked this one up really cheap at a bookshop, and it's like cyberpunk sci-fi. I'm not really sure how to classify it. It tells the story of Hiro, a katana-wielding hacker who jumps back and forth between dystopian Los Angeles and a virtual world called the Metaverse. This is supposed to be very interesting, kind of crazy cyberpunk, like I said, very meta sci-fi. So who knows? A lot of people I know have read Neil Stephenson. They enjoy him. I've been told that Snow Crash is kind of an okay place to start. So if I'm wrong about that, correct me. Otherwise, whenever I get to it, I'll get to it, and I'll probably start with Snow Crash. The next book is one that kind of just called to me from the bookshelf. I'm not really sure what compelled me to pick it up, but it seems like it would be an interesting change of pace from what I would typically read. So I want to try and get to it in the next few months. This is a literary fiction called Finding Edward by Sheila Murray. This is basically a story about a mixed race Jamaican boy named Cyril who immigrates to Toronto, to Canada, to go to university. And he stumbles across a suitcase from the 1920s with photographs that kind of chronicle a mother who had to abandon her mixed race baby named Edward. And it kind of talks about Cyril's own racial trauma, his own challenges and stuff going to school as someone of color in an otherwise predominantly white, I guess, community. And also how he feels compelled to try and figure out what happened to Edward. He was abandoned by his own white father, and so he feels compelled to go find out what happened to Edward and try and piece together this story. So Finding Edward is the book, and I don't know. I think I'll try and fit this in the next few months as something different than what I typically read. The next one I picked up is actually a gift for someone else. This is Stoner by John Williams. I gave this one a 5 out of 5. I read it not that long ago. On paper, it probably shouldn't have worked for me, but I actually really enjoyed it. It's kind of a boring story about like a mundane guy and just a normal life as a university professor in Missouri, and his relationships and his family life and him and his career and his different challenging relationships that he has as just a normal person. And I don't know, I really enjoyed it. It kind of creeps up on you. It was actually more emotional than I expected it to be. And I bought this as a gift for my father-in-law. My father-in-law is a career academic. He's a retired university dean and philosophy teacher and stuff. And so I don't know, I feel like he's a voracious reader. This seems like it would be something that he would find interesting and hopefully find some value in as a literary fiction book. So I bought it for him, and who knows? We'll see. Hopefully he likes it. I guess these two books are not really fantasy either, but I just got these and I wanted to show them off as well. These are the new Dune books. So obviously you've seen the original Dune, the orange copy of Dune that everyone has. This is Dune Messiah and Children of Dune. These are books 2 and 3 of the first Dune trilogy, basically the first 3 books. Obviously the series continues. I really enjoyed Dune more than I thought I would. Obviously very, very much sci-fi. And I'm going to continue with books 2 and 3 at some point. I just pre-ordered these a long time ago and finally got them, so I wanted to show them off. Not really sure when I would read these, but at some point I definitely want to continue and wrap up the first 3 books, which apparently are kind of the best part of the whole Dune series. The next few books were actually gifted to me. This one was gifted to me by Chris from The Fictional Escapist. I saw him do a gush review about this book and I immediately put it on my TBR and wish list. I almost bought it a couple times and he gifted to me. This is Dream of Death City by PJ Nwasu. It's a Red Kingdom novel, so I guess it might be a series at some point, but it is supposed to be a unique dark fantasy mystery set in a unique world with like a caste system and slavery. It just sounds very unique. The writing style apparently is very interesting and well done. So yeah, the cover looks super cool too. Super excited. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. Hopefully I'll read this at some point. And yeah, that review really piqued my interest. So maybe go over to his channel and check it out for yourself if you're interested. This one was gifted to me by Kayla over at Kay's Hidden Shelf, another wonderful booktube channel and friend in the community, and actually the captain of my Golden Bards team that I'm on for the April Keymark Discord readathon for April. This is Priest of Bones by Peter McLean. I've heard this one talked about an awful lot lately. Patrick Leo has a lot of good things to say about it. Apparently it's pretty dark. It's, Godfather fantasy meets like Peaky Blinders type of stuff, and it sounds super interesting. I guess he's like a crime boss that comes back after like leading a war or is in a war or something, comes back and finds all his operations in ruin. Apparently that's kind of the premise. So it sounds interesting, kind of a cool aesthetic, cool vibe and atmosphere apparently in this book. So yeah, I'm interested. Thank you so much, Kayla. I appreciate it. I've wanted to check this series out for a long time and I actually picked up the audiobook because I want to try and read it at some point pretty soon. The next one was gifted to me by Fina at Fina Reads, another wonderful channel. I'll link in the description, and a friend in the community, patron, subscriber, and she sent me a nice birthday card as well. And this is a Starbinder novella by Mark Timoney. This is an Eye of Eternity novella, I guess in the same world or series. This is in the same series as The Blood of the Spear, which is his book, but it's set 2,000 years before the events in that book. Now, you don't have to have read The Blood of the Spear first before reading this one, but apparently if you do, there's a moment that lands better if you read that one first and then this one. But apparently you can start here as well, and I might just do that to get a flavor for the writing and the world and kind of just see where this is going. But yeah, I've been meaning to pick up Mark Timoney's book, Blood of the Spear anyway, so I don't know. I might just sample a couple pages of this and pick up Blood of the Spear and then maybe decide what to do from there. I might actually reach out to Mark and see what he recommends as well. So thanks Fina and Mark Timoney for writing this. The cover's brilliant. So can't wait to go to get into this. I've heard a lot of good things, especially from Chris over at The Fictional Escapist, who I trust. So at some point, we'll get to this one too. The last gift that I received is from one of my best friends that I've made through BookTube. He doesn't have a channel, but we're good buddies. And there's a group of us that are really close. And I just appreciate him so much. He sent me, when he found out that I really loved Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire, and I had this book on my list for a while, he just spontaneously got it for me. And I can't thank him enough. This is the Game of Thrones illustrated edition. And like I said, I did a gush review about Game of Thrones. I've experienced A Song of Ice and Fire for the first time this year, and I'm absolutely in love with it. And this is one that I've heard talked about an awful lot. I'm just trying to find some illustrations to show you guys. The illustrations are just stunning. I hope you guys can see this. I think that's Khal Drogo there with Daenerys, and super, super cool. I'm in love with it. The map is super nice. The quality is pretty good. It has kind of like a textured, almost hard leather feel to it. And yeah, I don't actually own the hard copies. I own the ebooks for these ones, and I'm reading them for the first time, really loving them. Can't wait to maybe start a collection of these books for myself. So thank you, man. I appreciate you. And yeah, can't wait to put this back up on the shelf. All right, next up we have fantasy, and I'm going to start with something kind of random. I'm a huge Ninja Turtles fan, and I picked up a copy of The Last Ronin. This is sort of the new stuff, the darker new age comics. This is a bind up of the first few, I believe. And you can sort of tell from the cover and the title what The Last Ronin might refer to. So this is kind of a different take on the story of the Turtles and then where it all goes from, I guess, where it ended. Illustrations are awesome. Started in 2011, these new like darker themed comics, and it was started by Kevin Eastman. I also have some autograph stuff and some original comics. Maybe I'll do a little bit of a show and tell on those another time, but I won't bore you with this. Basically a different take, a reimagining, very dark. It kind of picks up, and the whole family dynamic of the Ninja Turtles is completely re-examined. So can't wait to read that. It's a quick one, and I just wanted to throw this in there because I'm excited about it. The next one is The Republic of Thieves by Scott Lynch. This is book 3 in the Gentleman Bastard series. I just finished The Lies of Locke Lamora, and I absolutely adored it. It's another one that I'm kicking myself for having taken this long to read. And I have the second one that I got used at a bookstore. The first one was gifted to me on Christmas 2020 by my wife. I just finished it. I loved it. I don't know why I put it off so long, so I bought the second one used, and I found the third one at a really cheap bookstore. So I picked it up because I'm convinced that I'm going to read all 3 of them that are out right now while we wait, I guess, for the last or next one. And I know I'm going to enjoy all of them because the series is really cool. The atmosphere is really cool. The characters are compelling, beautiful writing, great dialogue. Really enjoying this series. So I picked this one up as well. I also picked up The Way of Edan by Philip Chase. This is book 1 in the Edan trilogy, and I wanted to read this one in April. It came out late March. I wanted to read it in April, but I think I'm going to wait until Alan over at the Library of Alexandria does his narration for the audiobook. I think that'll be a spectacular performance. I really want to know how that's done, and I really want to kind of pair the audio and the book. I bought the hardcover or the paperback, I should say, to support the author, but I think I'm going to enjoy listening to Alan's narration. So I think for this one, I want to dip my toes into this world with Alan's narration as well. So I might just wait on this one, but I decided to throw it in. From what I know, it takes place in kind of a holy war, and it's reminiscent of Tolkien and David Gemmell, a little bit of an homage to classic fantasy with more modern flavor to it. And apparently the writing is beautiful. And there's a lot to like here. So the reception is good. People are liking it. So I think I'm going to put this on the shelf, have it look nice and pretty until that audiobook comes out. And then I'll read the other trilogy or the rest of the trilogy as it comes out later this year, because he's nice enough to give us all 3 books in the same year, staggered throughout the months. So yeah, for now, I'll shelve it and on the lookout for this one. When the audiobook comes out, hopefully I'll enjoy it as much as everyone else is as well. I also picked up and completed the set of my 5 Warrior Angels trilogy by Brian Lee Durfee. This is book 3, The Lonesome Crown. I have book 1 that was gifted to me, and I bought book 2, but then I found this one when it came out recently, earlier this year, in the wild at a bookshop. So I just thought I'd pick it up and complete the set while it was there in front of me. And I'm super excited to try this one. It's a series that I wanted to try in 2023. Not sure if I'm going to get to it, but I'm hoping to at least get to the Forgetting Moon book 1, and we'll see how it goes. It's supposed to be quite dark fantasy, very interesting, good versus evil. There's religious texts. It's reminiscent, people say, of a very dark Faithful and the Fallen, which is a series that I adore. So yeah, I'm thinking this is going to be up my alley. The writing is impressive. Brian Lee Durfee has a great channel. Go check it out as well. I might link it in the description. A series that I definitely want to try and get to in the near future. Next up, we have The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdallah. This is book 1 in the Sandsea trilogy. Supposed to be kind of it's inspired by 1001 Nights. So it's like a desert fantasy, escapist, thief fantasy, Egyptian kind of atmosphere. And I've heard it called like a gender swapped Aladdin. Sounds really interesting. I think this is her debut. The writing is supposed to be awesome. So when it's summer and it's hot and I want that kind of desert fantasy vibe, I'm going to probably reach for this. Next up, we have this one, which I found at a used bookshop, a nice hardcover for pretty cheap, and I don't really know too much about it, but it's called The Raven Tower by Anne Leckie, and this is kind of welcomed because it's a standalone, and I think there are some short stories in the same world, but it's, for all intents and purposes, it is a standalone fantasy book, which is always welcomed because there's not enough of those. But yeah, it's her first fantasy novel. It's based on the story of Hamlet. It recounts the story of Mowat, a prince seeking to overthrow his usurper uncle and regain his rightful place as the servant of a local god. He is accompanied by Iolo, his loyal retainer. I've heard really good things about it. Goodreads seems to have pretty good reviews. I actually posted a portion of this book haul in like a Facebook group, fantasy Facebook group, and people commented saying like, hey, The Raven Tower is actually super sweet. That's a good pick and a good find. I hope you enjoy it. So a lot of good things to say about this one. So yeah, it's short, it's sweet, little fantasy standalone. Going to try to fit that one in. Maybe later this year, I'm going to try and dedicate like a month to just standalones and see how that goes. And if I do that, this one will be one of them. The last fantasy book is one that has come up when I've searched for books, like fantasy books set in kind of a prehistoric time with cavemen and like that kind of atmosphere and that kind of like time period. And this is The Clan of the Cave Bear by Jean Auel. I don't know how to pronounce the name, but it's book 1 in the Earth's Children series. And I think there are 4 or 5 books in it. And the first 1, 2, 3 books are supposed to be very good. People that love the series don't love the rest of them, but apparently this book as a book 1 as well is quite beautiful, and it tells the story of this young girl, I think, in this like kind of caveman family and in prehistoric times. So I don't really know much else. I want to go in kind of blind to this one because it seems very interesting and fairly unique as a fantasy setting. So we'll see how that works when I'm in the mood for something in that vein. Maybe I'll reach for this one, but I thought I'd pick it up, and it was a used copy, and a lot of good things people have to say about this one. All right, last we got a couple special Barnes & Noble editions. I've always, as a Canadian, coveted these editions, but we don't have them here. And then recently I found out that there's a Barnes & Noble about an hour from me, like over the border, which is not good because I'm probably going to spend a lot more money there than I'm allowed to. So the first one I got there is a sort of a classic in a sense. It's Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park. It actually has The Lost World, which I have not read. I read Jurassic Park for the first time a year ago, maybe 2, and I thoroughly enjoyed it way more than I expected to. This is the copy that I wanted for a long time. It has the T-Rex on the front and the pterodactyls on the back, and it has silver sprayed edges, super sexy. I remember liking the movie, and this is a rare situation where the movie and the book are both quite different, but they're both exceptional and do the story justice. And yeah, I mean, having this on the shelf is sweet, but then I also have The Lost World to look forward to and read that at some point as well. All right, the second to last book is one that I'm sort of embarrassed to not have read yet before. I'm not sure why. I think it's because I don't have a sense of humor and I don't really like jokes. But this is Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is the ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide because I think it has other stories in it aside from just the main one. And it's just, I think, a copy that I want to keep of this book because a lot of people have recommended this to me over the years. It's supposed to be quite deep philosophy, existentialism, shrouded in just the best humor. And it's one of those books that people own and keep on the shelves and loan out to people and recommend time and again. So it's one that I think I wanted to keep a hard copy of. And I'm going to read from this copy because I'm not a weirdo and I like to read from special editions sometimes too. Why not? So yeah, now I have it. I'll read it at some point and maybe I'll let you guys know what I think about it. All right, last but certainly not least, this is probably my favorite book of this whole haul. Even though I haven't read it yet, it's one that I've been trying to find for a while in anticipation of reading this as my next classic. This is written in like the 1840s, I believe, by Alexander Dumas. This is the Count of Monte Cristo. Beautiful edition. I mean, this is probably one of the nicer books that I own. Has the nice ship on the back, beautiful gold edges. The quintessential revenge story. It's huge, like 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 pages, not quite sure. Somebody gets locked up for something that they didn't do and spends a lot of time plotting this revenge to take out on the people that wronged him. So it's supposed to be epic. I know quite a few people that say that this is one of their favorite books, if not their favorite book of all time. A lot of people put it on their top 5, top 10 list in the year that they read it. Some people say it's their favorite classic, even if it's not their favorite book. So tons of praise for this one. It's one of the most beautiful books that I own. It makes you feel like royalty having this on the shelf. I'm going to read right out of this one when I get to this one later this year because I'm not a child and I wash my hands and I'm not grubby and gross. And I'm just going to read right out of here because why else have these sexy editions if you're not going to read them? So that's it for me. I'm going to put my books back over here before they topple over in a pile. Let me know what you guys think. Have you read any of these? Do you have signed editions, special editions that you're really happy about or proud of? Have you read any of these? Would you prioritize any of these for me? Like which ones should I gravitate towards first? And I'm curious about all your thoughts. Leave them in the comments. That's it for me. Thanks for sticking around. This is probably a long haul, but I hope you had a good time. And that's it. Until the next one, until my wallet cries for mercy again, I'll catch you on the next video.